Welcome, traveler, to a land of profound contradiction. This is a place where the silence is so deep you can hear the whisper of eternity, and where the boundaries of the earth stretch to a horizon that seems a world away. You have arrived at an empire of extremes, a kingdom of sun and stone. So, who comes to a place named for death? It is the seeker, the adventurer, the soul longing to witness the raw, unfiltered power of our planet. You are here not just to see a landscape, but to feel the immense scale of geologic time and to understand why this valley, above all others, commands such reverence. This is Death Valley National Park, a name born of desperation, yet today a sanctuary for life of the most resilient kind. It is an invitation to explore a world that exists on the very edge of possibility. Prepare to have your perceptions of the desert and of life itself reshaped forever. Our journey begins where two states meet, straddling the California-Nevada border just east of the mighty Sierra Nevada mountains. The park is a vast mosaic, encompassing not only the legendary Death Valley but also the Panamint, Eureka, and Saline valleys. Each holds its own secrets, its own stark and captivating beauty. To comprehend its scale, you must let go of conventional measures, as this is the largest national park in the contiguous United States. It is a territory larger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined, a protected wilderness where more than 93% of the land remains untouched by road or structure. Here, true solitude is not just possible, it is inevitable. Imagine an immense interface zone, a place where two great deserts collide. The park protects the northwest corner of the Mojave and brushes against the arid Great Basin, creating a unique environment found nowhere else. It's a land defined by what it lacks, and in that emptiness, you find its true character. Look out upon the painter's palette of the desert, a masterpiece of natural art. Your eyes will trace the sweeping curves of sand dunes, the cracked geometry of immense salt flats, and the shadowed depths of canyons cutting through mountains. These are the badlands, valleys, and peaks that form the soul of this place. To understand this valley, you must look down, deep into the bones of the earth. The valley is a graben, a block of crust that has dropped down between two faults as the very continent pulls itself apart. The rocks here tell a story that began over 1.7 billion years ago, a saga of ancient seas, violent volcanoes, and relentless geological force. Two colossal valleys dominate this landscape, Death Valley and Panamint Valley, both born in the last few million years. They are like parallel corridors, sculpted by the same immense forces of the Basin and Range province. Notice how the mountain ranges march in stoic, north-south lines, standing guard over the valleys they cradle. Here, you can witness the greatest elevation gradient in the contiguous United States, a true spectacle of topography. To the west, the peak of Mount Whitney pierces the sky at over 14,500 feet. And here, in the heart of the valley, the earth sinks to its lowest point, creating a dramatic and dizzying contrast. We now stand at the bottom of the continent, Badwater Basin. At 282 feet below sea level, this is the lowest point in all of North America. Take a moment to stand on the vast, white salt pan and feel the profound weight and silence of being at the very floor of the Western Hemisphere. The mountains that surround you are in a constant, silent battle of uplift and subsidence. The Black Mountains to the east are rising so quickly that their canyons are steep and narrow, forming dramatic, wine-glass canyons. This rapid ascent chokes the canyons, preventing them from carving the classic V-shape you might see elsewhere. This basin was once the final destination for all water in the region, the terminus point of the Great Basin's drainage. During wetter ice ages, a massive body of water, Lake Manly, filled this valley. As the water evaporated over millennia, it left behind an incredible treasure of minerals. The legacy of that ancient lake is one of the largest salt pans in the world, a stark white expanse covering over 200 square miles of the valley floor. It is a landscape rich in borax, salts, and hydrates, the crystallized ghosts of a wetter, ancient world. This is the source of the valley's first commercial boom. And within this strange world lies a true mystery, the racetrack playa. Here, heavy stones seem to move on their own, etching long, elegant tracks into the dry lake bed. It's a phenomenon that baffled scientists for decades, a perfect example of the subtle, powerful forces at play in this quiet land. Now, let's talk about the element that defines this place above all others, the heat. Death Valley holds the undisputed title of the hottest, driest, and lowest of all national parks. It is a natural oven, forged by its low elevation and the mountain ranges that block any incoming moisture. On July 10, 1913, history was made here at Furnace Creek. The United States Weather Bureau recorded a temperature of 134 degrees Fahrenheit, or 57 degrees Celsius. This remains the highest, most reliably measured ambient air temperature ever recorded on the surface of the Earth. This is not a land for the unprepared, where summer days commonly soar past 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The sun's intensity is relentless, baking the ground and bleaching the very color from the rocks. Yet, this same environment offers freezing temperatures on winter nights, a land of punishing extremes. The valley's aridity is a product of the rain-shadow effect, taken to an incredible extreme. Moisture-laden air from the Pacific is forced up and over 3 successive mountain ranges, the Sierra Nevada, the Argus, and the Panamint. With each ascent, the air cools and drops its rain, leaving it bone-dry by the time it sinks into Death Valley. The result is a place that sees, on average, less than 2 inches of rain per year. Some years, there is no measurable rainfall at all. The very concept of water seems alien here, a distant memory from another world. The hot, dry climate makes it nearly impossible for soil to form, leading to skeletonized ranges. These are mountains stripped bare, their rocky bones exposed to the sun with very little soil to soften their sharp, jagged edges. It is geology laid bare for all to see. This brings us to the famous sand dunes, which are more rare and precious than their reputation suggests. Near Stovepipe Wells lie the Mesquite Flat Dunes, an accessible sea of fine quartz sand, sculpted into elegant curves by the wind. They are the classic, iconic image of the desert. But for the truly adventurous, hidden dune fields await. The towering Eureka Dunes, some of the tallest in North America, sing with a low hum when the sand avalanches. These remote fields, made of travertine or gypsum, are accessible only by rugged, unpaved roads and offer a solitude that is absolute. The winds here have a seasonal rhythm, a duel between north and south. Winter winds blow from the north and summer winds from the south. This constant back and forth holds the dune fields in a state of dynamic equilibrium, ensuring their position remains more or less fixed through the ages. And now for the twist in our story. In a land defined by its harshness, you might expect to find nothing but rock and sand. But that is where Death Valley reveals its greatest secret and its most profound paradox. This desert is, against all odds, alive. It is home to a surprising diversity of plants and animals, each one a master of adaptation, a testament to the tenacity of life. They don't just survive here, they thrive in conditions that would seem impossible. Look for the hardy creosote bush. Its resinous leaves a defense against the sun, or the iconic Joshua tree standing sentinel on the higher slopes. These plants have engineered incredible ways to conserve every precious drop of water. They are the quiet, stoic inhabitants of this valley. Keep a watchful eye on the high, rocky slopes for the majestic bighorn sheep, moving with an agility that defies the treacherous terrain. At dawn or dusk, you might catch the fleeting glimpse of a coyote, its lonely howl a quintessential sound of the American West. These are the survivors. But the most astonishing resident is a fish. The endangered Death Valley pupfish is a living relic, a survivor from the Pleistocene ice ages, when this valley was filled with water. They live in isolated springs and salt creeks, tiny, iridescent miracles swimming in water much salter than the ocean. The pupfish is the ultimate symbol of Death Valley's resilience. To see them darting about in their small, precious habitats is to witness a story of survival that has unfolded over tens of thousands of years. They are a link to a wetter past and a symbol of hope in an arid present. In 1984, UNESCO recognized the global significance of this ecosystem. Death Valley was designated as the principal feature of the Mojave and Colorado Deserts Biosphere Reserve. It is a living laboratory, a place of international importance for understanding how life can flourish at the absolute limits. But life here isn't just floral and faunal. The human story is just as deep and compelling. For nearly 10,000 years, this valley has been a home. The first known inhabitants, the Navarra Spring people, arrived when lakes still shimmered on the valley floor. They were followed by other cultures, each adapting to a climate that grew progressively hotter and drier. The Saratoga Spring people, who arrived 2,000 years ago, were skilled artisans and hunters, leaving behind mysterious stone patterns that we can still see today, their purpose lost to time. About 1,000 years ago, the Timbisha Shoshone people made this valley their home, and their descendants still live here today. They perfected a pattern of vertical migration, spending winters in the valley and moving to the cooler mountains in the summer to harvest pinyon pine nuts. Their story is one of intimate knowledge and deep respect for the land. Then, in 1849, the California gold rush brought a new kind of human to the valley, one driven by haste and hope. A group of pioneers, lost and searching for a shortcut, stumbled into this immense basin. Their story would give the valley its grim and famous name. This group, known as the Bennett Arcane Party, was trapped for weeks. They survived on the meat of their oxen, burning their wagons for firewood at a site now called Burnt Wagons Camp. They were pushed to the absolute limit of human endurance. Despite the ordeal, only one of their group perished here. As they finally hiked out of the valley, one of the women looked back and said, "Goodbye, Death Valley." The name, born from a single moment of relief and sorrow, stuck forever. The story of their struggle was immortalized in books, radio shows, and films, cementing Death Valley's reputation as a place of peril and adventure. The legend was far more deadly than the reality, but it captured the imagination of a nation. Soon after, the call of gold and silver brought a rush of prospectors. Short-lived boom towns with names like Rhyolite and Skidoo sprang up overnight, only to be reclaimed by the desert just as quickly. They are now ghost towns, their wooden skeletons a testament to fleeting ambition. The only truly profitable ore to be mined was a humble, white crystal, borax. For years, this white gold was hauled out of the valley by the legendary 20 Mule teams. These massive wagons and their resilient teams became an enduring symbol of American grit and ingenuity. By the 1920s, a new boom arrived: tourism. Resorts were built at Stovepipe Wells and Furnace Creek, inviting travelers to experience the valley's stark beauty and comfort. The perception of Death Valley began to shift from a place to be feared to a place to be revered. In 1933, its importance was officially recognized when it was declared a national monument. Decades later, in 1994, the park was substantially expanded and granted its highest status as a national park, ensuring its protection for all future generations. The climax of our story is not a single event, but the raw, untamable power of nature itself. On rare occasions, when the rains do come, they arrive in violent, intense storms. Flash floods can rage through canyons, tearing out roads and completely remodeling the landscape in a matter of hours. In 2005, an unusually wet winter brought forth a miracle. The floor of Badwater Basin filled with a shallow, temporary lake, and the park exploded in a super bloom of wildflowers, the greatest in its recorded history. For a brief, glorious moment, the Valley of Death became a valley of life, carpeted in gold, purple, and white. Conversely, storms like the 1,000-year flood event in 2015 show the destructive side of this power, trapping visitors and washing away infrastructure. These events are a visceral reminder that here, nature is always in command. As the sun sets, the drama of the day gives way to a different kind of majesty. The heat bleeds from the land, and the sky transforms into a deep, velvety black. The valley's extreme climate and isolation have an incredible side effect, some of the darkest night skies in the country. In 2013, Death Valley was officially designated an international dark sky park. Free from the light pollution that veils the cosmos for most of humanity, the sky here is simply breathtaking. The Milky Way doesn't just streak across the sky, it hangs above you like a thick, glittering cloud. This is the resolution of our journey, the quiet awe of the cosmos. Standing under a canopy of countless stars, you feel a profound connection not just to the earth beneath your feet, but to the universe beyond. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated wonder. Death Valley is not a void. It is a landscape brimming with stories of geology, of survival, of ambition, and of time. It challenges you, it pushes you, and ultimately, it rewards you with a perspective you can find nowhere else. So leave the road behind, step out onto the salt flats and listen. Listen to the wind, to the silence, to the echo of history. You came here seeking a place of extremes, and you found it, not as a valley of death, but as a vibrant, enduring, and unforgettable testament to life. We are not just exploring a landscape today, but uncovering the ghosts of industry, the echoes of dreams, and the tenacious spirit of those who sought their fortunes here. This is the human story of Death Valley. So, who is drawn to this history? It is the adventurer who sees more than just rock, who hears more than just wind. You are here to understand how a place so famously hostile could become a stage for pioneers, prospectors, and charlatans, and how their legacy shaped the park we know today. Our journey is one of transformation, from a remote wasteland into the world's #1 source of a precious mineral, then into a playground for the rich, and finally, into a protected sanctuary. We will trace the marks left by humanity, the mines, the roads, and the myths. The story doesn't begin with gold, but with a humble, glistening crystal. The ores most famously tied to this valley were not glamorous metals, but evaporite deposits like borates and talc, the crystallized remains of ancient lakes. These were the true treasures, easiest to collect, and immensely profitable. Picture this. It's 1881, and two prospectors, Rosie and Aaron Winters, discover a sprawling field of these crystals near a place then called Greenland. They had found borax, a mineral that would soon power an industry and create a legend. This was the valley's white gold. Almost immediately, the Eagle Borax Works sprang into existence, the very first commercial operation in Death Valley. But the name that would become synonymous with this era was William Tell Coleman. He built the famed Harmony Borax Works, a plant that began processing ore in the blistering heat of 1883. From this remote outpost, a refined product emerged, destined to become a household staple. This borax, produced to make soap and serve countless industrial uses, had to be moved. And the method of its transport would become one of the most iconic images of the American West. Behold the 20 mule teams. These were not just teams, but epic caravans, consisting of 18 hardy mules and 2 powerful horses, harnessed together to pull 10-ton wagons. They were the lifeline of the borax industry, the only way to conquer the vast distance. The journey was a grueling 165-mile trek to the Mojave railhead, an odyssey of endurance. The teams moved at a snail's pace, averaging just 2 miles per hour. A single round trip took an entire month, a testament to the immense challenge of this landscape. After Coleman's empire was acquired, a marketing genius named Francis Marion Smith created the 20 Mule Team Borax trade name. This image of rugged men and resilient animals battling the elements was used to sell everything from hand soap to a beloved radio and television series, Death Valley Days. The legend was now cemented in the American psyche. But borax wasn't the only prize. Other prospectors, driven by a different kind of fever, scoured these hills for the glint of copper, gold, and silver. Theirs was a more sporadic and often heartbreaking pursuit, hampered by the unforgiving desert environment. Now, shift your gaze to a scene in 1903. Two men, an out-of-work Irish miner named Jack Keane and a one-eyed Basque butcher, Domingo Etrin, are prospecting for silver. By sheer chance, Keane stumbles upon an immense, glittering ledge of pure, free-milling gold. He had discovered the Keane Wonder Mine, and his find ignited a short-lived but frantic gold rush into this harsh corner of the valley. Suddenly, the phantom of wealth shimmered on the horizon once again. For a brief time, dreams of gold overshadowed the steady enterprise of Borix. The Keane Wonder Mine, along with operations at Rhyolite and Skidoo, were the rare successes, extracting enough ore to be worthwhile. These boom towns roared to life in the early 1900s, full of saloons, miners, and boundless optimism. But their existence was as fleeting as a desert mirage. For every success story, there were a dozen failures and outright scams like the town of Leadfield. Most ventures were a flash in the pan, a few hopeful holes in the ground that yielded nothing. Today, these abandoned mines, the landscape, dangerous and silent reminders of shattered dreams. The financial panic of 1907 was the death knell for many of these towns. The money dried up, and the prospectors moved on, leaving behind skeletal remains to be slowly reclaimed by the sun and sand. The gold rush faded, but the valley was about to find a new kind of currency. Here is the story's twist. The very reputation for harshness that had defined Death Valley was about to be remarketed as its greatest asset. The era of extraction began to give way to the era of experience. The first tourists began to arrive in the 1920s, staying in rustic tent houses at what is now Stovepipe Wells. They came seeking the curative properties believed to exist in the valley's natural springs. Health, not wealth, was the new treasure. Seeing an opportunity, the Pacific Coast Borax Company made a brilliant pivot. In 1927, they transformed the old crew quarters at their Furnace Creek Ranch into a high-end resort. The Furnace Creek Inn was born, a luxurious oasis in the middle of the desert. But this comfort came at a cost. The spring at Furnace Creek was harnessed to supply the resort, its water diverted for pools and gardens. As a result, the surrounding natural marshes and wetlands, vital habitats for wildlife, began to shrink. Despite this, the valley became a wildly popular winter destination. Among the new facilities, one stood out for its sheer audacity and eccentricity: Death Valley Ranch, known to the world as Scotty's Castle. This was no castle, and Scotty was no king. It was a lavish Spanish revival mansion built by a Chicago millionaire, Albert Johnson. Its supposed owner was Walter Scott, or Death Valley Scotty, a gold miner and charming charlatan who claimed to have built it with profits from a secret mine. The real owner, Johnson, was amused by the myth and happily played along. When reporters asked about his connection to the castle, he would simply reply, "I am Mr. Scott's banker." The story was too good to spoil, and it became one of the valley's greatest tourist attractions. On February 11, 1933, the valley's status was officially elevated. President Herbert Hoover proclaimed Death Valley a national monument, setting aside nearly 2 million acres. This was the first major step toward formal protection. During the Great Depression, the Civilian Conservation Corps, or CCC, arrived. These young men did the foundational work of building the park we know today, grading 500 miles of roads, installing utilities, and constructing visitor facilities and campgrounds. They tamed the wildness just enough for others to experience it safely. The creation of the monument temporarily closed the land to new mining, but the victory was short-lived. Congress quickly reopened it, and a new, more destructive era of mining began. Gone was the romantic, lone prospector. Now, international corporations brought in heavy equipment. Huge open pit and strip mines began to scar the landscape, gouging minerals from highly visible areas of the national monument. The scale of the destruction was shocking. A public outcry erupted. People who loved the valley's stark beauty were horrified by the industrial wounds being inflicted upon it. This public pressure would lead to a monumental climax in the valley's story. In 1976, Congress passed the landmark Mining in the Parks Act. It was a definitive statement. The act closed Death Valley to new mining claims, banned open-pit mining, and demanded a review of all existing claims. The battle between exploitation and preservation had reached its turning point. Limited mining was allowed to resume in 1980 under much stricter rules, but the tide had turned. The last active operation, the Billy Mine, finally closed in 2005. The era of large-scale mining in Death Valley was over. The park's protective embrace continued to grow. In 1952, Devil's Hole was added to the monument to protect the last remaining habitat of the critically endangered Devil's Hole pupfish. This tiny, isolated patch of water held one of the rarest fish on Earth. Then, on Halloween of 1994, the monument was expanded by 1.3 million acres and redesignated as Death Valley National Park. This elevated status made it the largest national park in the contiguous United States, a true wilderness sanctuary. This brings us to the present, and to you, the modern explorer. Sightseeing here is an adventure in itself, whether by car, motorcycle, or on foot. Paved roads like State Route 190 and Badwater Road lead to iconic viewpoints, but the true wildness lies beyond. Over 350 miles of unpaved and four-wheel drive roads snake through the backcountry. These paths lead to remote canyons, historical sites, and a silence so profound it feels ancient. This is where you can truly leave the modern world behind. For those who wish to stay, options range from designated campgrounds under the stars to the historic four-star Inn at Death Valley. You can sleep in rustic comfort at Stovepipe Wells or Panamint Springs, each offering a unique gateway to the surrounding wilderness. Your first stop should be the Furnace Creek Visitor Center. Here, exhibits and films bring the park's immense history to life, from its violent geologic past to the stories of the pioneers you've just heard. It is the perfect place to ground your adventure in knowledge. For the truly intrepid, the hot springs of Saline Valley await. Reaching these developed pools requires a long, rugged drive on unpaved roads, a journey that filters out all but the most dedicated. The reward is a soak in warm mineral water in one of the most remote corners of the park. The geology of this park is a story so epic it's hard to comprehend. The land here has endured at least 4 major periods of volcanism, 3 periods of immense sedimentation, and multiple tectonic upheavals that literally reshaped the crust. The oldest rocks you can see were altered by heat and pressure 1.7 billion years ago. Since then, this land has been the floor of a shallow sea near the equator, part of the supercontinent Rodinia, and the site of massive mountain-building events. More recently, about 3 million years ago, the crust began to stretch and thin, creating the basin and range topography we see today. The mountains rose and the valley floor sank, a process that is still happening right now beneath your very feet. During the ice ages, this valley was not dry, but filled with a series of massive lakes, the last of which was Lake Manly. Fed by meltwater from glaciers in the distant Sierra Nevada, it covered much of the valley floor. The vast salt pans are the ghost of this long-vanished lake. This incredible geologic and climate history has created a startlingly diverse ecosystem. Over 1,000 species of plants have adapted to this environment, 23 of which are found nowhere else on Earth. They are masters of survival, with deep taproots and clever defenses against the sun. The park's wildlife is equally remarkable. You might see elusive bighorn sheep on high mountain ridges, or catch a glimpse of a coyote trotting across the desert flats at dusk. The park is a sanctuary for 51 species of mammals, over 300 species of birds, and dozens of reptiles. Even a galaxy far, far away has a connection here. In 1977, director George Lucas used these stark, alien landscapes as the setting for the desert planet Tatooine in the original Star Wars. When you look out over Mesquite Flat sand dunes, you are looking at a true movie star. But now, we turn to the resolution of our journey, a spectacle that unfolds every single night. As the sun sets and the last light fades from the peaks, Death Valley reveals its most breathtaking treasure. Look up. Here, in one of the darkest places in the United States, the night sky is unveiled in all its glory. The park is a certified international dark sky park, a sanctuary from the light pollution that has blinded most of the world to the cosmos. The Milky Way is not a faint smudge. It is a brilliant, textured river of light that casts a soft shadow on the ground. The Andromeda Galaxy is visible to the naked eye. This is the sky our ancestors saw, a universe of infinite depth and possibility. This nightly spectacle is threatened by the explosive growth of nearby cities like Las Vegas. The glow on the horizon is a constant reminder of the ongoing need to protect this natural darkness. It is the final frontier of preservation in the park. From the sweat of the Mule skinners to the schemes of Death Valley Scotty, from the scars of open-pit mines to the protected darkness of the night sky, the human story here is one of constant evolution. It is a story of learning to value a place not for what can be taken from it, but for what it is. You came here seeking the tales of those who tried to tame this valley. You leave with the understanding that the valley was never truly tamed. Instead, it tamed us, teaching us a profound lesson in humility, respect, and awe.